And let's see. Hey, hi everybody. This is Steve Sandy, and Marty will be here shortly. Hopefully, really, really soon, and we'll be able to chat about all sorts of fun things. And the fun thing is, I'm going to see while he's hanging out there, I'm going to see if I can find a way of adding this Hangout extension. Hey, let's see. Yeah, here we go. Apple World today. AWT Live. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Okay, anyway, this should be fun. I'm going to turn on a lower third here. Let's see if it shows up. Well, we're having fun here tonight. I hate these tools, I really do. Screen share, chat, cameraman, hangout toolbox. I'm trying to find any way I can to get my buddy here. Oh, add participant. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. Marty, where are you? Let's see here. Well, the fun thing is I'm actually trying to see if I can get some stuff going here while I'm waiting for, there he is. There he is. Let's see here. Marty, I can't hear you. There he is. I hear him. Or at least I did hear you. I hear a clunk.
Okay, right there.
There you are. Hey, question. Well, the funny thing is I ended up using this lovely Hangout toolbox to see if I could add a lower third, and it doesn't look like it's working unless it's showing up on the broadcast, but I don't know. I'll have to look here.
Yeah, we had to jump through a few hoops. Apparently, each week you have to send me a link, and then I have to change my audio source and in and out. So I don't think it sticks. But,
well, that's kind of rotten, but
it should stick. It does for us at church. I never have to change it. So
we'll have to try something. Well, we may have to try something else. I'm not real fond of their tools, but what the hey? And I'd like to be able to do like, something other than having the real green screen behind me. It would be nice to get my background back. And I know a way of doing that. I tried the Hangout toolbox and that doesn't seem to be working, but we may try something next time.
Well, anyone listening at the beginning here, we're broadcasting next week in only 7 days. And then a big break to what, about September 18th?
Something like that. Yeah, that'll be about right. So yeah, it'll be a bit of a nice little break, and
we'll pick up with our fall season with Monday Night Football, and then us the next night.
Exactly, and I'm sure we're going to have new advertisers, new sponsors. I think we're even going to have a new start song, that'll go on there, but.
That's not the one you and I recorded, is it? And so we did not do one.
Why, yes, it is. Well, maybe not. Okay. Let's see. There we go. I was just going to make sure that screen was coming up here. And if you notice the notes on YouTube, it says Steve and Marty hang out at the end of the month. And Marty provides some shocking news. Shocking.
I do. and I'll explain more in full and online. I've got an iMac or a Mac Mini, got a MacBook Air. Let's see what else I got. Oh, Apple TV, iPad over there. And as of 2 weeks ago tomorrow, I have an Android phone. I know you can't see it with the glow and everything, and I'll have some online maybe stuff show, but at least you can see a little bit there. It is definitely an Android.
Oh, are you sure you're not running some app on an iPhone that just
No,
makes it look like Android?
here's the rear.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to write an article for our site, and I've been checking ever since I told you if you've taken mine and Ruby's name off the site. Spare her. I'm the guilty one. But
That works out pretty good.
yeah, I'll tell you what, and if anyone's listening, I'll go into some detail online. I love the iPhone. It is a Corvette of phones. It's sleek, it's fast, it's beautiful, but I was needing a farm truck. And there were a few core things I can do with the Android that are impossible with the iPhone and that I really depend on. And because I used an iPhone, I used an Android up to 5 years ago this coming September. So it was September 2013 when Phil Schiller made the announcement of a 64-bit desktop CPU. I dropped everything and swapped in. But one might ask, well, what can you do? It's not just a customization. I do like that. I like live wallpapers, things that move. And, I'll boot it up. And hopefully next week I may broadcast from my Windows computer and hook this up and show some screenshots. I'm on the Mac. I can hook it up to the Mac, but I thought I'll just wait so easier through the Windows. I've already had it running on the Mac. But there's about two key things that really drove me over. Number one was Siri versus Google Voice. We've beat that to death, and I've done a lot of demonstrations. I have a lot of trouble Siri understanding me, and of course I can use Google Voice on the iPhone, but it's not hands-free. I have to open up, click, and then wait. You have to get into the app. But Google Voice, as always has been before, is just absolutely, I could type a tome with Google Voice. It just doesn't miss anything hardly. And, it learns from your habits and will spell names correctly because it reads your contacts and things like that to be able to get the correct spellings. But one of the biggies for me is automation. I loaded a program called Macro Droid. I just simply program things to run at predetermined times, and they do it. Complex things. Like I like to record each church service we have. Of course, I can do that on the iPhone, but with this, I have it set for 15 minutes before service to go to Do Not Disturb, and then at 5 minutes before service to start recording. It does that without me even looking, and then I know when our services are usually over. I have it stop recording. It does, turns Do Not Disturb off, uploads the file to Google Drive, and then when it's finished, we'll delete it off my phone. I never have to look at it. It's just, I've tested it multiple times. I just log on Google Drive, and there it is. I love that automation. Nice. And it is really nice. It's really a tool for me. And even you had commented last week, and you may have had some part in this. You said Apple is not always the right tool for the job, and it's not always. Yeah. My wife will stay with an iPhone. She loves it because it just works for her. And I have to admit, I've always been sort of geeky in programming, and tinkering. And I thought I was through with that at my age. But this has reawakened the geek.
You don't get over it. I don't think you'll ever get over it. Well, it's funny you bring that up, too, because about, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago, I finally, I use Siri on the Mac. For simple things, for instance, when I'm writing a post and I need to do something like get a dimension or weight in metric, it's really easy to just go click, ask Siri about it, and the next thing you know, I've got the answer, floating up there in the corner. which works out really nicely. But one thing I've noticed is that in terms of home automation, just about every home automation manufacturer out there works with Alexa, or they work with Google Now. And I have had an Amazon Echo Dot for quite some time. I was my biggest concern about the Echo and Alexa in general is, the famous thought that it's sitting there listening to you constantly. Well, I started thinking, well, there's got to be a way to do this with this device, and sure enough, I did find it. Yeah, there's a mute button on top, and all you have to do is hit the mute button, and it will not listen to you. The ring on the Echo Dot glows red when that's happening, so you know that it's not listening. And that's basically what I ended up doing. Now, when I do want to command something to turn on or turn off or do something like that, and it's being controlled by Alexa, I just punch the button on that, make my command there, and it goes ahead and does what it's doing. So in that specific situation, and this was with several devices that I had, that just, if you wanted it to work with Siri, you were going to do some sort of workaround, and I just wasn't ready to do that, or was tired of not having that workaround available. Right. So yeah, I brought the Echo Dot back, and it's sitting on my newly cleaned off desk. I don't know if I've mentioned that in the past.
No, I don't think so.
My desk used to be a real mess, and this weekend I went absolutely nuts in terms of cleaning, and I now have this beautiful, clean expanse of desk. It's great. And what's funny is the cats still haven't figured it out, so they're not jumping up there to visit me. So
it was a danger zone before.
Yeah.
But, there's some other things, and other things I will think of. My biggest problem with leaving iPhone, I can sum it up, probably was iMessages. I only have really about 3 core people I text regular. My wife, my brother, and my friend that I've talked about that has the fiber, the lady. And she was watching a while ago because she said, Steve is looking for you. She texted me.
Yeah, I saw her there.
Yeah. And I only had about 3 people I regularly iMessage. Well, I asked them if they would be so kind as to install Google Hangouts, and we can do things with that. And it works great. It's, very, very streamlined. I'll be honest, I like it some ways better than iMessage because I don't have all that weight of the Animoji and all the send your heartbeat and stuff. A lot of things I feel are teens. I just want to communicate, sometimes text and picture and maybe a video, and that's about it,
Well, I was going to say, a good thing we don't pay you, because I've been paying Dennis through Apple Pay, and you wouldn't be able to get paid.
I'm sure I can get it on the iPad, so feel free. Just, But
someday.
Yeah. That's another thing. I had the Pixel 2 XL first, which is a true Google phone. Our carrier does not carry it, so all I had to do was pop in the SIM and it worked. But it wouldn't send text messages without jumping through some hoops. You had to program it to AT&T and back, because Verizon locks that down. When I turned it on, it said, your Verizon phone's now active. So I'm sending it back to Google Thursday for a full refund. Well, I think they take away some restocking. But anyway, I bought one that our carrier carries. And I'm really glad I did. It's got the latest CPU, and I know Android had a reputation for being slow. It is not. I was stunned at how fast and zippy, no lag, no stutter, nothing. As I know this is a little technical, but as they say, it is buttery smooth. A real tech term there.
Yeah.
But it is. And I'm not worried about the security. I think they've shored everything down. Know where you load your apps from, the Google Play Store and such like. And I have found everything basically that I want repeated on the Google Play. And maybe next week I'll give a demo of a few apps, but I know this is an Apple show. But I'm going to write about the reasons I switched over. A couple more are, I can take a USB cable, and it's USB-C to USB-A, and plug it into the computer. it sees it as a thumb drive. I just drag and drop files. I love that. I had a ton of sounds I wanted for ringtones and alert sounds on a Windows virtual machine. I plugged this into my Mac, and it asked me, do you want the Mac or Windows to recognize this device? I said, Windows. It just popped up. It said, you know, Samsung phone. All I did was I saw it as a drive, opened up, I drilled down to where it said notifications on the phone. I dragged and dropped an entire folder called sound effects and sound effects 2. It just appeared here. And you try doing that with iTunes and getting things over. It is a bear to create your own ringtones. I've tried it. And I love dragging.
It used to be a lot easier. That's what's really bad.
Yeah.
And I
don't remember those days.
Well, I think the reason they did that, you know, this was probably 2007 to 2010, right around there. But it was really pretty easy to create
Probably
your own ringtones.
DRM.
And put them on there. I'm thinking that, and also, if you could create your own ringtones, you weren't buying them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so of course, for people, I'm sure everybody knows with DRM's digital rights management to protect it. But if I was going on a long trip, that article you sent me today was really good. I can take say a 512 flash drive, and I have a little, if I want to, a little dongle, plug it in here, and it sees it external storage. You know, I can drop pictures off, say I'm on a trip and say I'm running out of space. That's okay. Just plug in a flash drive. It is really like carrying a computer. Now, this is not to say that the iPhone is bad. It's not. It's a great phone. Different tools for different jobs. Back to my analogy, a Corvette is a nice car. I don't have one. I don't want one because I drive a pickup. But a Corvette just doesn't serve you well on the farm. It gets you from point A to point B in a flashy manner. But on the farm, you need a truck for hauling hay, or, you know, just, you know, rock and debris. You can just throw in the back, not worry about it. I really wanted a work truck, and that automation at church. Oh, another thing, Apple locks you down totally on this. I know they're going to have Siri shortcuts, which I look forward to seeing. But everything I've read that the developers, if you go through a series of shortcuts and say, I'm heading home, and it sends a text, you still have to intervene and hit send. Apple will not let you send automatically without you hitting that send button. It'll do everything up to that point because they really block that. But with this, it doesn't matter at all. I can totally do send. I've got it programmed to like send my wife happy birthday next March, and it will do it because I've tested a lot. And, you know, I can say, send me a text if, and so many criteria, but not this, you know, if, then, not, you know, all that programming stuff. And so
like AWT TV.
It is. And I just tried a little experiment. I had it programmed to text her when I leave the house and send her, it'll even read my miles per hour at that point and send it to her. And just, you know, you can get deep.
She can text you and say, Marty, slow down.
Not me. You don't know me. People talk about my speed. People at church talk about it because I'm so slow. They get behind me after church. I pull over and let them by. It's a subject of conversation. We have a lot of Amish in the area. You know, they have the horse and buggy. I tell them my slow speed is not embarrassing until the Amish pass me with a horse, you know.
I was going to mention when you brought up, you know, your analogy of the Corvette and the pickup truck. I was going to say you need to be like this friend of mine, Buzz Roberts, who I used to work with. He's retired now, and he did pretty well for himself, I think. And he's got a big Ford, I think it's a Ford pickup, and he's got himself a brand new Corvette. So,
well, you do realize they're made only about 45 miles from where I live. The only place in the world they're manufactured, Bowling Green, Kentucky. So, you
need to go get one.
No, you know, that's just not my style.
Hey, that's why I drive Hondas, you know.
But I'll have more, and I don't mean to bore our viewers, but that's why I've switched over. It doesn't mean I've left the world of Apple, but I had noticed a lot of bloggers I watch, broadcasters especially, they all love the iMac for processing their video in Final Cut Pro, but then they carry an Android phone as their daily driver, as they say. And so I got to thinking, I can speak both languages. There's no use limiting myself. I don't have to be one or.
Well, I tell you, the one thing that almost got me about a year ago was when Google Fi, really started coming out in my area. And if people aren't familiar with the Google Project Fi, basically what it is very inexpensive, kind of unlimited service, but it only works with specific phones. And at the time, I think it was the Pixel 2 they were looking at. And it was a little bit pricey in terms of the initial cost. But I tell you, I was like that far away from doing it. And then I said, nah, I don't think so. With the iPhone 10, I'm perfectly happy with what I've got. I mean, I absolutely love that phone. You talk about, different devices. Some are better than others in terms of the way they work. I was getting really, really irritated with my MacBook Pro, and this is last year's model, as I brought up, with the touch bar and all that good stuff. But the reason I was getting irritated was anytime I would open it up, to kind of wake it up and turn it on, it would seem to reboot. It would, sometimes it would just kind of go off into the ozone, and I'd be sitting there going, well, did you just lock up? What the heck happened? Since I put the beta of Mojave on here, pop the top, it comes up, it asks for my password. If I happen to have my watch on, which I do 90% of the time, it unlocks it with the watch, and I don't even have to worry about using the touchpad. So it's been absolutely amazing, the change in my attitude towards this machine since I put that data on there. Yeah,
well, I was listening on my Apple products, and I forgot I have an Apple Watch from my friend that I was talking about that she gave to me, just that she wasn't using it. And, but I'm glad that helps your computer. And I'm going to write this up, just some bullet points on our website of why and what I think I will do in the future. It was, Ruby had suggested this title of the recurring article, Apples and Oranges. I want to do some comparisons. And, not only the phones and what they can do or can't do, but maybe an app like, well, here's Weather Underground on the iPhone. How's it compare to, Weather Underground on the Android? And I think this will give us some more readers. I have to admit, I really, really like this. And the programming and just things like this, let it know. And of course, it has wireless charging, which yours does too. But I can, say at, 10:30 p.m., turn the screen brightness to 23%. At 6:30 a.m., turn it to, 80%. Or just when it has power from wireless, because I have a wireless charger by the bed, dim it to 20%. When I take it off, brighten it to so-and-so to 80%. But I can put a constraint. Only brighten it to 80% if it's after 6 a.m. So if I pull my phone off at 3 a.m. and check, it's not going to blind me. So that is a program that I can write unlimited macros and very complex stuff. It will, read notifications coming in. If I get a notification, say from Ruby, a text, it'll actually read it out to me and then switch to her text and actually automatically reply if I want to and just send it to her. And I tell you a very, very handy thing that I've written for it. So simple, but like if Ruby calls, I have it to switch to, it'll answer automatically on the second ring and switch to speakerphone. I don't have to bother with it. If I were to be doing something, have it, laying there on the desk. And so I work out on treadmill daily and I wrote a macro. All I got to do is hit one button. I tell it to turn on speakerphone and auto answer for everybody for like 47 minutes. And after 47 minutes, turn that off. I never have, it's so handy. I really like that kind of programming. It reminds me of Automator, on the Mac, but it's for the phone. And so I like that you can do constraints because if I do pull it off at night, I want it to stay at the 20% brightness, but it will know don't brighten it unless it's say 6:30 a.m. But I can even go further. It knows where I'm at. So I say, don't brighten it unless it's sunrise already. It knows sunrise time. You can do any kind of variable and constraints. If it's sunrise and on a Saturday, brighten it to 80%. You know, you can get very
Yeah.
complex.
One thing I was going to bring up, though, I absolutely love hearing about that level of programmability, being able to do those sorts of things, and I'm hoping that we get at least a taste of that with the actions and Automator coming up. Not Automator.
Series shortcuts.
Series shortcuts. Thank you. But when that comes out in another month or two. But the one thing I was going to bring up is, for you, that works out really, really well.
It's complex to do.
Yeah, most people that I get in my, for instance, my iOS classes, people I talk to, pretty much every day, I don't think they'd be able to accomplish that level of logical thinking. And I'm not being offensive to people, not.
Oh, I agree totally.
But I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to do that type of thing.
Well, they're not tuned that way. I love tinkering and doing. And that's why they need the Corvette or a nice sedan to drive. I just want the old farm truck. I can make it do anything I want, tinker under the hood. And I can think of so many examples, but that program to do all the automation costs $3.
Jeez.
And that's a lifetime license.
Nice.
And unlimited. But one thing I can do, if I write a really nice, say, complex macro to run when you go to bed and then do things when you get up, I can package that and share it to other people. So it helps a little bit.
Nice.
So I am really impressed with Android after 5 years. It has really come into its own. You probably can't see this, but here's my, Apple will let you have static, also more static wallpaper, but here's my home screen. I got weather. I love the little widgets, weather and time.
Oh, you got cat cam on there too.
I do. I just put that a while ago, but see, that is a live camera I can have on my screen if I want it. Nice. And, Apple won't let you do anything but move your icon. So I've got the time and weather and really whatever I want. Live wallpapers are beautiful. I really like some of them. Might be a little bit of a battery drain, but I haven't seen any problem. Battery is great on this. Yeah. Seemed like there was a thing. Oh, headphone jack. One thing that Samsung has been knocked about in the past with is their speakers. They had a single bottom firing speaker only, but now it's earpiece and bottom. And I'll be honest, if I put it on high, it's a little too loud for me. It can really rock the room. It has Atmos Dolby sound. So it's I guess, pseudo surround, but it really sounds good. Some way they do that. So they've really come into their own. And I knew I was going to keep it. The iPhone's no longer here. Google offered me $302 for it, but after they got it and examined it, they raised it $32 or $35 more dollars. It was in pristine condition. Yeah, they didn't lower it. They actually said, we'll give you more. And so the phone is gone. So I have no choice. It's sort of like jumping in, sink or swim. I think if I'd kept it here, it may have been a safety net, but I've really taken to this. So if anyone's watching patiently as I do all this, I'll have an article online. And no, I haven't left the Apple world. I love the Apple world, but I wanted something to really be geeky with. And this is serving my needs. I love that.
That's about as geeky as you can get, guy.
It is. I love that kind of level of programming. I think I honestly had told myself, you're too old to fool with this anymore. And I realized I'm not. And I enjoy doing it.
Well, it's funny. Back in the days when I was running my pedantic.com, PDANTIC was the name of the website, but ran that from 1994 up until, keep wanting to think it was about 2004, 2005. And then I changed the name and did some other stuff. But when I was running that site, I used to be multi-platform. I had multiple devices. I had like 3 accounts with different carriers, so I could test all the different carriers. And the fun thing about that is, back in those days, it was really a battle between the Palm platform, of course, being
oh yes, I was there.
all those lovely devices, the Trio, the various models of the Trio were just, pretty incredible.
I had one.
But you had Windows Mobile as well,
I
that
had
was in there.
that. I've been through them all with you.
Yeah. And it was funny because I also, well, for quite a few years, I think it was about 3 or 4 years, I also had just a regular old, one of the Nokia candy bar phones. And those were fun, and they were tiny. I can remember one of them was
Hmm.
about this big. Uh, that was great, especially when I was doing a lot of bike riding, because I'd stick it in the pocket in the back of my jersey, and you needed to make a call. You just pull this little tiny phone out and you do it. Um, now you see the various mounts on the handlebars, and you get this
Hmm.
big iPhone or big, whatever smartphone sitting out there. So it's kind of funny. We've almost kind of reverted back to large phones over the
Yeah, I
past
know
few
we
years.
have. And I keep thinking of things that I enjoy doing, and I don't want to bore people with it. I just show it's probably got the best camera on it I've ever used. The zoom, and it's got the one it does an auto aperture. From 1.4 or 2.4 to 1.8 according to the light level. This one does, and it has an SD card for what it's worth slots. If I want to expand like that, I don't have one in it now, but I'm learning Android again, but it's so close to iOS as far as the look. I didn't think it used to be as pretty, and it's according to your programmer. But some apps, the Samsung calendar is stunning. It's beautiful the way it transitions from day to day and fades in and out as you slide. So it's really nice. So I won't keep boring people, but no, I haven't left Apple. I've just expanded my wings somewhat.
And that's the way to do it.
Well, I'm
Well, that's
hoping it'll
like,
help our site that people will look for some alternative views and thoughts.
well, one thing I was going to bring up there, in terms of, like you said, kind of getting out of the Apple box, so to speak. Uh, just this last week, because I'm going to be traveling quite a bit, and at one point while I'm traveling, a certain person by the name of Mr. Dennis Sellers is also going to be traveling. Now, Dennis, apparently, I think he sold his MacBook Pro. He now has just an iPad Pro, along with his iMac and all the other devices. But he made the comment. He said, "Steve, I noticed I can't do a lot of what I need to do on Squarespace, which is our hosting service for Apple World today. So I can't do a lot with the app. There are certain things that I just cannot do. Do you know how, any way that I can do this and be able to use my iPad Pro while I'm on vacation?" And so I went out and, I kept thinking there's got to be a way to do it, because, I can get in on my Mac into the Squarespace web application, so to speak, the web page, and I can do pretty much everything. You try that on an iPad, though, in Safari, doesn't work.
Not
You
even your
try
press request desktop site.
exactly. Yeah, try it with Google Chrome. Even requesting a desktop site doesn't work.
Hmm.
What I found out, and it just absolutely, well, I guess in some ways it surprised me. In some ways I went, yeah, I can see that. But Firefox
Hmm.
for iPad works beautifully. And
Amazing.
I told him about that. I actually wrote ended up writing a post on my iPad Pro. I had, part of the screen was Firefox. The other part of the screen was a text editor where I had some of the code that we need to embed. That was the big problem. We have embedded code that we use for advertising. I know people don't like advertising, but we got to pay the bill somehow. Anyway, to get that in there, there was no way to do it. And until I figured out that Firefox would work just beautifully to do it. So I'm hoping Dennis is, giving it a try, and he's going to be able to get things working. But once again, That's not a product that you see from any of the mainstream manufacturers, so to speak. Firefox, is from Mozilla, which is basically a kind of a non-profit, if you will,
Yeah.
that's creating a web browser. And I've got to admit, I've used it for some other things. I wasn't, specifically looking at using it on the iPad. I have it loaded on my iMac, and it does some, websites that I have difficulties with Safari or Chrome. It works just beautifully. Oh, and we have a cat here.
Oh, yeah.
Pippin says hi.
So where are they going for the next month?
Oh, they're going to be here. They have a friend who comes by and feeds them twice a day and does all sorts of fun stuff. So
Well, that's good. They won't be out of pocket.
Yeah. Well, they get played with, and they're going to hate us anyway. But what are you going to do?
Well, that's pretty neat about that. Well, I do want to, like you said, and I go back to this quote, Apple's not always the right tool for the right job. And for what I was wanting to do, just to sum it up, the automated recording at church and automatic uploading. And I found myself, maybe as age, I think it's being busy of greeting all the people. Sometimes I'd forget to hit record. Sometimes I'd forget to turn on Do Not Disturb. But this way, I can say this now about the Android, it just works. I looked down at services, it was recording, and it had already turned on Do Not Disturb, did everything for me. And I'm going to work on some more complex stuff. Like if someone texts me and there's a certain keyword, I can respond to them with a certain text, and even with variables in it if I want to. And so
one thing I am going to point out, though, in terms of Android versus iOS in the smartphone market, as you know, I am a real drone fan. The big drone company out there, DJI, has an app, DJI Go 4, that runs on both Android and iOS. Now, on iOS, when a new version comes out, you never hear about any issues. Pretty much it works. Gets on there, people are able, they do the update, they go out and fly, everything works as they're expecting it to. The biggest issue that people find with third-party devices like a DJI drone is that not every Android phone works with the updated software. So what you'll see is a new version of DJI Go 4 for Android will come out. People will load it on there. You get half of them saying, oh crap, the app is exploding, it's crashing when I launch it, or I just went out and flew and I lost control of my $1,200 drone and it smashed into the ground. So that's one of the issues that I still see with the platform. You're having really good, I won't say luck, but a really good results with that particular app on a pretty much top of the line Android phone. I don't know if somebody that's gone to their local low-cost carrier and purchased some off-brand, I hate to use that term, but some off-brand device, I'm not sure they would necessarily have the same luck. Simply because,
I agree totally with what you're saying here. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the one caveat I think I would put out there.
Yeah.
If you're kind of running the well, we're kind of using cars and trucks. You're running kind of the Cadillac, if you will, of the Android phones.
Well, I just read an article, I think today. It said the best Android phone of 2018, ... by Android Authority. It was this exact phone.
Exactly.
And so, it is a premium phone. And it really is fast. And just a lot of things were put into the CPU to use all the cores and swap. And it's really a geek's delight. It's all about. It really is. And
I love that term.
Maybe it's be a good column too, Geek Delight. But iMessage, I tell you what, I had watched a YouTube and I had Ruby watch it with me. It was sort of hilarious. There was this young guy, but my age, everybody's young, nearly. He was talking about he's been an iPhone user all of his life, and he was with a friend using a modern new Android. And he said, I was so impressed. He said, I want to go to Android, but I can't. He was British.
I can't.
Yeah. And he listed
Interesting.
iMessage and Find Friends as the reason. He said, I can't do it. And so that was a little tough. But once I broke free, I've already healed. I've got around iMessage by other ways. People, yeah, they
I feel much better now.
Yeah, I do. I have detoxified or something here. Just it was a changeover. I got over iMessage and Find Friends. Actually, going to Android made me do something I would have never found. And I need to do a review of this app. I was going to miss Find Friends. Well, I found another app called Life 360 that works on Android or iOS. It is amazing. It's free up to a certain point. It's free for all I need. You track your friends and families that give you permission. And unlike Find Friends, it shows them going down the highway in real time. I've seen Ruby pull up to a stop sign, wait, then I can see her turn right. It's real time movement. And whenever they finish driving, after about 5 minutes, to make sure you're not a quick stop, it'll send you a report of their path and top speed and everything.
Nice.
Pretty neat. It is nice.
Hey, speaking of apps, and I don't know if I can share this one because I just realized I don't have a cable here.
And I'm sorry to commandeer the show with all this stuff,
Not a problem. But I was going to actually bring up you started talking about, being able to kind of track where people are. Barb and I've used Glimpse for years, which is great for doing the car type things. But one thing that has always, I won't say bothered me, when we travel, I would love to keep an exact log of every spot I go to, but not have to, manually do it. And I was just poking around the other day, and I found this app called Fabric. And what Fabric is, it essentially, you pretty much have to give it full access to location services all the time. But what it will do is go in and I don't know if we can see this here, but it pretty much creates a log of every location you were at, when you were in transit, where you were at, how long you were there. And then for those individual locations, you can actually link photos and, share it with people, say you were with a particular person, do all sorts of other fun things with it. So it almost seems to me like it's a mixture of one of my other favorite apps, which is Swarm, where you can kind of check in at places and say, hey, I'm here again. I'm doing fun things. But it's a combination of Swarm, combination almost of, some of the Google apps where they're tracking you and, they know where you are and where you've been. I was just going to look here real quick. Yeah, Google Local Guides. I'm a Google Local Guide. So on my home screen here, I have a nice little widget that, pretty much says where I was and asks me to write a review, different things like that. So that's kind of cool too, and that's an alternative. Eventually, I figure like I'm going to get rid of one of these, one or the other. But I think Fabric could be interesting for travel. I hope to, give you a better report once I've had a chance to travel. And
yeah, I like that it can do the pictures and everything. So
yeah,
a lot of people really are concerned about sharing their location to an app, but I have no concern. The permissions are pretty well locked down that you can only see it. Google has something on Google Maps. It's just it'll track you every day of where you've been and how long you're there. Other day I had Google, and that's one thing. Google will integrate obviously a lot better with an Android, and because it can do a lot of proactive things. It popped up and said, "Were you at Pizza Hut at this time?" I said, "Yes," and it'll post a picture and fill out my thing, and so I really like that fabric. I'll have to do that. So
Yeah,
I
it's a pretty cool app.
yeah.
I was really kind of surprised with it, and I don't know if I'm going to have the time to go in and fill out some details or maybe write a note about it. Like, hey, we were at the Acropolis today, and it was 98 degrees, and they're having forest fires outside of Athens. So we were both choking on smoke or something like that. Uh,
Well, if it would automatically log, obviously, your places, the time you were there, it could read your the temperatures,
yeah,
the weather when you were there, and any photos you take, put it with it. And that really will
could be
create
good.
a diary, Yeah.
Yeah. And every little thing that you tend to put into a diary or some sort of thing like this really helps in terms of getting those memories a few years down the road. Now, I use one of my favorite apps of all time, something that I literally use every day, is Time Hop. And Time Hop, you give it access to all your social networks. Uh, you also give it access to your photos. And what it does is every day it comes up and says, hey, 3 years ago you were doing this. 4 years ago you did this on this date. 5 years ago you took all these
Mhm.
pictures, and it shows you all the pictures. 6 years ago you took this video. And every day it's really cool to be able to go in there and say, oh, wow, I forgot 5 years ago we were at such and such a place. And I love that capability. It's almost like, at one point I was, really loved the idea of what they called life cams, which were going to be these little things that you would,
Right.
clip on. Trying to remember the name of the one, but uh, I actually have two of the little devices, and I just hated them because they didn't work the way I wanted them to. This is getting much closer, this app, to that idea where pretty much everything you do in your life is captured in some sort of way that you can go back and you can look at it on a particular day. You do still need to get in and do some physical photo taking, maybe a little bit of blogging, so to speak, to tell people what you were up to at a particular point. But I think, in a couple of years, if we're wearing, some sort of augmented reality glasses, and they can take the pictures and attach them to a particular time and place, uh, it's great. You'd be able to go into something like, either Time Hop or some other app at that point, but be able to really recreate what you did 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, nine
Right.
years ago. I think, for
It
me,
would
I
be.
find that fascinating.
Well, I know on the Pixel, and I hadn't tried it on this yet. I could tell it, and I could program it to like just take a picture every hour. That's one thing you really get access to the low level hardware. And I noticed that company they have a bunch of examples and that you can use of macros. One is if say your phone's been stolen, but you have this macro, if someone tries to enter your security code twice, it'll take a selfie, then send it to you. And so you know who's at your phone.
Mm.
That kind of automation too. But I guess I'm really using it superficially, but as long as I can record search automatically, not forget do not disturb. And so next week I may have a more of a hands-on demo. We'll see, just to show some of the physical things of it. But for our show, the way I'm going to demonstrate Apple programs, Apple apps, is I have an iPad over here, and Ruby's offered me her iPhone to use anytime for the show. So I will be fine with that, except I've got a USB-C cable plugged into the Mac. I have to change it back to Lightning. And so,
Like that. USB-C. I'm sitting here, speaking of which, trying to figure out how the heck Do you share in using Google Hangouts? How do you share a screen?
Uh, Let me see. Go over toward the left, and there'll be a green icon second from the top.
Okay, the one that looks like screen share. There we are. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. You had
Good.
it. Yeah, it doesn't show. It flies out when you mouse over.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of going, where is it? I can't find that's absolutely great. So we'll definitely I think we'll kind of get back to running more app demos in here.
And I promise I won't do any Android stuff unless someone asks. But next week I may do a few screen shares because I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet.
And
And
speaking of screen shares, you think we ought to, or I ought to show people some of the features of good old Mojave?
oh, I would love to see it. I haven't seen it myself much. I haven't loaded it here because it's my
Okay.
work computer.
Well, I'm going to hit screen share here, and I'm going to do the entire screen so people will be able to see all of my secrets here. But here we go. Whoa, did you see that? That was kind of cool.
I did.
I'm screen sharing. I'm going to kind of hide that window so it quits doing that Mobius loop of images there. But first of all, if I go in and just show the screen here, you can tell back here, kind of looks like early evening on the desktop. That is part of the live desktop feature of Mojave. And they've got this nice picture of this dune. And it changes to match your local time. So, when it's morning, it's lit from the other side, and, the clouds are pink and everything. So it gets to be midday, the dune is pretty much covered. What I'm hoping is that other people are able to create these dynamic desktops, as they refer to them. And we start seeing a lot of those because it's a really cool feature. I love seeing how that changes during the day. It's really a lot of fun. You'll also notice, let me kind of go back there, that things are dark down here. I'm using the dark mode. And if I change that, let me go in and do a quick change here. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Let's see. Maybe I picked the wrong one. I think I did. I think it's under general. Or there we are. Yeah, I see light and dark up here. So if I want to go back to the regular light mode, I can click on that. If I want to go to dark, I can click on that. So you can see how it varies as I go from light to dark mode. Pretty cool. The dark mode actually looks pretty darn good. I like that. And some apps it looks really, really good. Other apps you kind of go, yeah, maybe that wasn't the best thing to see. Oh, and there's our weird Mobius screen again. Some of the other features, the news app, and this just got updated the other day, by the way, but welcome to Apple News. It's going to come up with that because this is the first time since I updated. But, here we are with trending news. Whee! All sorts of fun stuff. Gives us all sorts of information. And, gee, what does it look like? It kind of looks like news on iOS. So pretty nice little app there. We also have, where is it? Where are you? Stocks, which is kind of like the iOS app. For instance, I can look at Apple. We can tell today we were at the end of the day, I think it closed at 190. But after hours, it bumped up to 197.95. Hopefully, we're going to see tomorrow $1 trillion market cap for the company. That would be cool. The other app that has come over is voice memos. This pretty much, once again, works like voice memos on iOS. You just click the record button, you start talking, and it goes ahead and records everything you're saying. And you get that nice little sound wave on the screen so you can see how loud your voice is relative to something. Hit done. There it is. I can go in and listen to it. I don't know if you heard that there, but and then I can bring up edit. We can look at the different edit tools. We can
and notice at the top it tells where you were when you recorded it.
Oh, I'll be damned. I didn't notice that. That's cool. Thanks for pointing that out. And if you click on this, you get the, you know, kind of the trimming tools that are very familiar to people who've used the iOS app. So anyway, pretty cool little app. I'm not sure it's going to be a, you know, a deal killer out there for people, but it's just one more of the iOS apps, you know, that we're familiar with coming to the Mac. And that's really kind of a cool thing to see. Trying to think what other items I could point out here, but oh, one other thing I'll show, bring up a Finder window, and previews now give you a lot more information here. For instance, on this image, which is of a robotic vacuum that I reviewed today, you get, you know, the type of image, the size, tags, creation date, dimensions, resolution, and I can get every bit of other information, you know, tag information there, aperture value, exposure time, focal length, ISO speed, whether or not I was using flash. So getting that EXIF information is just absolutely great. One other thing that is available is what they call quick actions. And here I am in the Finder. If I want to rotate that, I can just click that. I don't need to go into any other application to do it. If I want to mark it up, it brings up a quick look, and I've got all these various tools up here to let me mark up the image. If I want to close it real quick, I also have some other items under here. For instance, if I want to take multiple images, like all of these, oops, let me do that again. I'll take all of these images here, a bunch of screenshots I took earlier today, and I want to create a PDF that contains all of those images. For instance, I'm sending them to somebody so they can write a manual. I just hit create PDF, and it's done. There it is, image12.pdf. And then I can look at the little thumbnail of that particular PDF file, and I can see I've got multiple pages there.
That's really a nice feature.
Yeah, some fun things you're going to be able to do with this. And so far, I have had no difficulties with Mojave. I mean, it just seems to be, if anything, I think it works better than High Sierra. And that's, you know, kind of high praise considering it's still in beta right now. So that is about it for that demo. But I think they're, you know, their move to really kind of slow down on adding a tremendous number of new features and really kind of focus on performance and you know, making things a little bit easier for people to use. I think it's going to help out this year.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that looks really good. And whenever I had the iPhone, I had been running iOS 12 beta, and I found it snappier and much smoother than, you know, the release version of 11. Of course, I had to, before I sent it to them, Google had 3 criteria before they would give me money for the phone. Does it turn on? Is the screen cracked? Can you erase it? Yes, yes, yes. So that was all I had to do. So I had to roll the firmware back to iOS 11 and then erase it. So that wasn't any problem. I had a backup on iTunes. So I'll mention one thing in closing because we're coming up to an hour. I think one thing that helps me transition very easily to an Android and I forgot. Let's see. I'll have you. Let me see if my wife can hear me. Ruby, if you can hear me, send me a text or somebody if they're listening, because this has something on it that I have missed for years. Maybe you can send me a text. But I was so invested already in the Google ecosphere, if you will. I use Gmail, I use Google Drive, Google Photos, and so it's a natural progression to be able to do all of those things. And you know, it's been no problem whatsoever. I'm gonna send me a quick text here. But for the you know, from henceforth or after next week, I'll be doing all the Apple demos. And you know, whenever we'll come together next week. All right, Ruby sent me a text. And, oh, I've got hers set to do a Star Trek sound. You know, they do the hail for the captain. It'd do a little trio light. It would do that. Ruby, I'm going to ask you to send one more because I think it opened it. But you probably won't be able to see it now because it only does it every 5 seconds or so. But I could change that. But in the upper, I guess it'd be the corner up here.
Dark screen right now.
Yeah. Well, it's got an LED that flashes various colors for notifications, and so I probably actually opened that. But do you remember how the Blackberries had? And thank you for the text. How Blackberries had the LED that would flash at the top anytime you had a notification.
Yeah, it's like you've just gotten.
Yeah, and it probably did not do it because I'm having I've got it programmed every time I get a text to automatically switch to that app, so it opens it up instantly. But I really enjoy having the LED, just such a simple thing. And
yeah, it's great for notifications when you don't want, you know, something to buzz or make a ring or something like that. It's, you know, that's one of those things I really, really, really wish they'd add.
Well, I thought that on Apple because I can do it like text to flash green, blue, say Slack to flash green, and you know, things like it. Just a quick glance at the phone. It's not doing it now because I think because of the auto open, I turned off that notification. But it is flashing, but it probably will not come around for a while. And so that is one of the features. And for anyone listening, rolling their eyes, this is the last you'll hear all this.
Nobody's doing that. Come on.
No, probably not. I'm just going to hold it up in case it were to flash. I'm trying to get it really black. But you may not even be able to see it on the camera.
Oh, there. I saw it.
Yeah.
I did see up in the is it upper left?
Yeah, it should be at the top of the screen. Well, that may have been a reflection then.
No,
yeah, it will flat. There it was. A blue quick light there.
Yeah.
And cool. I couldn't even show that by plugging in. So little things like that have really thrilled me.
Well, and you know, it's so simple to do something like that with an OLED screen because all you have to do is say, take this little cluster of pixels and flash them every 5 seconds.
And that's actually an LED in the bezel. But Samsung has a neat little thing. If I get a text, it will flash all along the perimeter on the actual screen, like bright blue or any color I want for different people. And so it's just a lot of neat fun. Yeah, fun little features about that. We're really over time, but is there any major Apple news, you know?
Well, other than once again, they knocked it out of the park with financial earnings news today. That was absolutely, pretty stunning. The big things are on that, and I guess I can kind of summarize them in less than a minute, but iPhone really did well compared to last year. And not necessarily in terms of sales climbing dramatically, but the average selling price of the average iPhone has gone way up. And primarily because people are buying a lot of iPhone 10s. They are more expensive. The iPhone 8 Plus is also very, very popular. once again with a higher average selling price, and that really helped out revenues a lot. iPad sales are definitely seeing an upward swing, which is fascinating because the rest of the tablet industry has really shown a major slowdown over the last few years. I think the big thing there is we're seeing a lot of people going, "Hey, I can buy a 32 gigabyte, Wi-Fi only iPad for my kid, for $329. If I happen to be able to get an educational discount, it's $299, and I know it's got that high quality that I expect with the iPad." So that's really good news there. Wearables have gone through the roof. They were commenting in terms of sales of the AirPods and Apple Watch, once again, are just way up. Probably I won't call it the negative news, but the not so good news was you didn't really see that much growth in terms of Mac sales and Mac revenues. But services through the roof again. The company is just, it's firing on, if it's a 6-cylinder engine, I'd say it's firing on probably all 6 cylinders right now. May not continue forever, but while it lasts, I wish them luck. The one thing I would really like to see is that $1 trillion market cap. We're hoping it can happen tomorrow, but who knows?
Yeah, they say if they don't, Amazon's right on the cusp of it. So one of them's going too soon.
Well, I got to bring that up because Amazon went, let's see, Amazon. I got to look it up here. Oh, wait a second. I've got the stocks app. I keep forgetting. This is, where are we? Stocks. And I believe I've got Amazon out there. Yeah, Amazon, oddly enough, is right now. Yeah, they were down about 2% today. Their market cap right now is about 887 billion. Google's at about 846, so they're right in the ballpark as well. Apple closed the day at 935 billion. I would love to see Apple do it just to say that a publicly traded company is worth over $1 trillion. It can go up and it can crash tomorrow. I don't care. But as long as they do it for 5 seconds, that'll be cool.
They probably will.
You never know. The stock market's, so weird. We've talked about this before. And a lot of years we've seen, stellar earnings reports. And the next day, it'll start off high and then just drop because one analyst says, yeah, but what about X, Y, and Z? And I don't know. I just don't understand the brains of Wall Street. They make no sense to me.
Yeah. I just pay the bills we do and let it go. That's, I'm not into that at all. But
makes two of us.
So anyway, well, I've enjoyed the show. I hope I didn't bore you to death.
No, it was absolutely fascinating. And, taking a look at some of the automation features out there really has me kind of drooling.
Well, I'm not as totally vested into Apple as you and Dennis are at all. All my cloud services are Google. So, it works out really good. And so next week I may give an on-screen demo. I may broadcast from like I said, Windows computer will be a little bit easier. And then when we come back in September, it'll be all Apple, unless some people want to mention something or discuss something otherwise.
Yeah, and we'll, one fun thing about this. Oh, one other thing I wanted to bring up. Last week I was talking about Tangible Tech, the website, and the Tangible Tech website is up and running. In fact, I had launched it last week, but it's up and running. You can go out to tangibletech.net and definitely see what's going on. That website is also on Twitter if you want to, see our feed as it comes in. That's at tech_tangible. And we're also on Facebook. Just do a search for Tangible Tech, and you'll be able to find it there as well. And I will have a podcast out later this week about the new space race,
Okay.
which will be fun.
All right. Sounds good. And so we will be back in 1 week, won't we?
Yes, we will. And then we're kind of rushing you with a bunch of good episodes, and then we're going to be gone for a while. So
We'll be back to September 18th or thereabouts, you said.
Yeah.
When we come back for that, there shall have been new iPhones announced.
We should have iOS. We should have iOS 12. We should have Mojave. We should have the new Watch OS, new TV OS. It's going to be wild times.
It will be. So,
well, thank you very much, Marty.
Yeah, thank you.
And I tell you, I really kind of like this, getting out of the Apple box, out of the Apple crate. There's a
lot of my friends, people online, I've heard say the walled garden. Yeah. I was able to scale the wall and get out. It doesn't mean I won't come back through the gate and just visit and do, but it felt good to be able to break and not be dependent and do a few other things. It's nothing against Apple. They're wonderful products, work so good. But there's a lot of other stuff out there that you might be surprised at.
Yep. And the best tool for the job
exactly
may not necessarily be an Apple.
That's
exactly as we've
right.
said before.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again. And we will be back 1 week from today, which is August 6th, I think.
It'll be August, 7th.
August 7th. Anyway, we'll be, that's right. August 7th, we'll be back and for another live AWT TV. And that'll be episode 45. So we'll see you next week. Thanks again, Marty.
Thank you, Steve. It was enjoyable.
See you all next week.